Hey, I'm Bruce with Deep South Sauce Company here for B&B Charcoal, and we're going to be cooking some ribs today using B&B lump charcoal and post oak on an offset smoker. So let's get started. First thing we want to do is we want to light our offset smoker. Now this is probably bigger than your average home offset smoker. We use this for catering and things like that. So what we're going to do, it takes a little while to heat the chamber. I'm going to start off with B&B lump charcoal. This is going to give me a lot of heat and you really get that hot bed of coals in there to start getting the heat to rise, because I want that airflow to draw through. So I'm gonna just load up my wood chamber with charcoal. I want to get a nice bed in there. Kind of even it out a little bit. You can tell this is real wood lump charcoal, big pieces, which is nice in there. And then I'm going to use these B&B compressed wood lighters. I'm just going to kind of put it throughout because I want it lit and even throughout to get that heat dispersed. And then when I get this up to temperature and a nice big red bed of coals, I'm going to start adding some post oak wood to it. And I'm looking for about 275 in my chamber. Now it's a big chamber on this one, so they're going to have a little bit of fluctuation. But we're going to give this about an hour to come up to temperature, and then we're going to throw some ribs on. We're going to prep them while we're waiting for the temp to come up. So our offset smoker is getting ready and warmed up. I'm going to go ahead and prep the ribs. Now we have 3 racks of ribs from Compart Duroc Pork. They are a beautiful set of St. Louis style ribs, but we're going to need to take the membrane off, right? So there's a little trick we can do to get the membrane off. I like to do it in the middle, and you grab a bone, you just take a knife. It doesn't have to be a sharp knife, although that's all I got here today, and just try to get under the membrane and lift it off the bone. And once you kind of start lifting it off, you can take either a butter knife for something not sharp, and you kind of get up under that membrane like that, and you can just kind of pull and push. And if you have trouble, because it is fat, it gets a little slippery, you can take a paper towel and grab it, and you just pull, and you just want to keep even pressure on it the whole time and get that membrane off. Now the reason you want to get that membrane off is it creates a barrier to smoke in your rubs and your seasonings, okay? So once we get the membrane off, what I'm going to do is season it, and you use just your favorite products, right? I like to start off with a base layer of salt, right? Just base layer of salt. I like a little pepper. And honestly, you could stop right there and they'd still be great ribs. But I'm going to use 2 of my favorite barbecue rubs, and I just bought these from the store, but you can make your own, and just put a nice coat of rub on them. And you want to be careful. A lot of these have, you know, sugar and salt in them, so just be careful of your content, of your flavorings when you mix rubs and things like that. So that's one side. I'm going to get the other. So what rubs to use and things like that, that's all personal preference. I'm just using some basic rubs today that I happen to enjoy. You can make your own, but you do want to be careful of your combinations and make sure it's something you like. There's nothing magic about it. You just find what you like and use it. So a lot of people say they need a binder like mustard or oil on the ribs. I don't think you need to do it all. Once you put the rub on and it starts soaking in, you can kind of see moisture coming up out of the rib. So that's really all you need. And so I'll finish prepping these, seasoning them up, and then we'll put them on our offset smoker here as soon as it gets up to temp. All right, so our smoker's been going for about an hour with that bed of B&B charcoal lump charcoal, getting a nice glowing red base. And I need that base really hot, right? So now I'm gonna add some of this B&B post oak, and you see it's got some bark on it, etc. That's gonna help us create that smoke ring that we want. Now I'm using a really big piece of wood here and getting in there. I still don't have my meat on yet, and that's okay, right? I just want more coals. So I'm just bringing the temp up. I wanna go probably a little close to 300 in there. When I open it up, I'm gonna lose some heat in the chamber. So let's talk a little bit about how an offset smoker works. So my heat source is on the side. And you can see, from this angle anyway, that there's a hole that takes the airflow from here and gets pulled through the smoking chamber. And so I can control my flow of air from this side, and I can either leave my box open, crack it, or I can close it, and then I have a vent at the bottom that I can open and close here to control my airflow, right? And it's just experience and how you want. I happen to know that if I have a good bed of coals going this wide open, and my vents on the other side being wide open will help. And then it'll go through the chamber and out the other side of the vents. Now, if you can see right now, the smoke that's coming out, I just added some wood that had bark on it, and while my bed of coals was good, I purposely let it get a little low because I wanted to show you what dirty smoke looks like, right? So if it's got this white heaviness to it, that's not good cooking smoke. So that's why it's really important for you guys to have a nice hot bed of coals before you add your wood in. Now, I don't have any meat on there now, so it's not hurting anything. And if it does happen while your meat's on, as long as it doesn't happen very often, it's not gonna be terrible. But you wanna make sure you have a nice, consistent hot bed of coals at all times. Airflow goes through and comes out the other side, and that should almost be wispy or just like heat waves. You really shouldn't see smoke on it at all. All right, so we're gonna let this come back up to temp and clean up that smoke by just getting it hotter in the chamber, cleaning up that smoke, and then we'll put our ribs on. All right, so our smoker is up to temp. We got a nice roaring fire in the firebox. As you can see, our smoke is cleaned up quite a bit, and it's that wispy smoke, right? So it's good, clean smoke. We got a hot fire. I'm just a little bit above my target on my temp guide here because I'm gonna open it and put cold meat on. So I went just a little bit high because I know I'm gonna lose temperature when I open it up. Now, for me, this is a really big cooking chamber, right? We use this for catering and stuff like that. So I kind of know the hot and cold zones here. The flame is coming out. I have some deflector plates under there that drives the heat over here. So I'm gonna put the ribs about midway, right? So I'm just kind of pulling my grate out, and I'm just gonna lay my ribs front to back, kind of in the middle. Now, I like to push the ribs together a little bit so they're not as stretched out. I think that helps them cook and be a nice presentation for later. So the smoke is gonna come in, the heat's gonna come in, it comes up because of these tuning or deflector plates, and then the heat rolls around and the smoke comes out the top. So we should get a nice smoke around those ribs and a nice even heat. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this up. And we're gonna check on it in about an hour or so, but we're constantly gonna be looking at our firebox to maintain our temp here. And so we'll check on them in a couple hours until they're done. All right, so our ribs have been on for about an hour now. We're holding steady at 275. Our smoke is still nice and clean. I'm just gonna take a look, I hadn't looked at them yet, see how they're doing. Maybe I need to move them around, maybe I don't. They seem to be doing fairly well. I'm just got straight apple juice, just natural, no sugar added, anything like that. Just gonna spritz them, keep some moisture on them. Adds a little bit of sweetness, not much, but just more or less keeps some moisture on them, keeps them from drying out. Now you'll see because of the rubs I use, I got some nice pepper in there, a nice mahogany color is starting to form. That's all the rubs, right? That's all the rubs that I added in there that give it that color. So we're just gonna close it back up and let it run for another hour and take a look. All right, so we've been here 3 or 4 hours. The ribs are looking really good. I got one rack that is ready to come off. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring it off, and then we're gonna take it over and we're gonna glaze it with some of our sauce. So I'm just gonna take this rack of ribs right here, and I can kind of tell it's done because it can bend really easily. I'm gonna go ahead and take that off. These others, as you can tell, don't bend quite as much. So they got some time to go. Just gonna kind of move them over a little bit. And we'll bring this over here. And I'm just gonna take some of our Deep South Sauce Company Original Smoke. I'm just gonna put some across the top. There we go, a nice glaze on top of it. And then I'm just gonna take it back and I'm just gonna leave it in the pan, put it on the smoker for just maybe 5 more minutes to let that sauce set, and then we'll let it rest. And then we'll cut it up and eat it. Hey, it's Bruce with Deep South Sauce Company for B&B Charcoal, and today we did some Compart Duroc ribs on our smoker using B&B Cooking wood. We put some rub on it, put it on the smoker at about 275. We had to feed that fire all day long on that offset smoker. And then we glazed it at the end with Deep South Original Smoke, let it rest, and look at this beautiful pile of ribs.